everybody, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I have the second part of my mid-year series check-in. So in this video, we are going to be going through all of the series that I've started or made progress on in 2022 that I would ideally like to finish or catch up on if they're not completed series, ideally by the end of the year. There are actually only going to be 8 series that I'm talking about in this video, which is extremely strange for me because last year we had 18 and I think that was actually a reduction on the year before. But this is only going to be series that I've started or made progress on in this year. But as an example, I still haven't finished the Book of the Ancestor series by Mark Lawrence. I'm still 2 books into that, but as I haven't read any books in that series in 2022, then it will not be included in this video. Something else that is incredibly surprising about this video and that I only noticed when I was gathering the books is that the majority of these are actually fantasy romance series. We only have 8 series in total and 5 of them actually fall under fantasy romance, which is interesting, and I don't know if there's a reason for that, but I would very much like to maybe try and find out. But before we get started actually talking about the series, I would first like to say a big thank you to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this video and for continuing to support my channel. As you guys know, if you're a regular over here, Ana Luisa is a sustainable, aesthetically pleasing and fashionable jewelry brand that create beautiful pieces of jewelry without leaving a carbon footprint or any unethical factory practices. So there are a lot of things that I really love about Ana Luisa and about working with Ana Luisa. I have to say that obviously when we're talking about jewelry, one of the most important things is that it looks beautiful, and Ana Luisa jewelry just truly is stunning. I love that their pieces really lend themselves to layering. I also love that they have a mix of more statement pieces but a lot of like really classical pieces that are a lot more simple. You guys may have noticed the necklace that I'm currently wearing in a few of my recent videos. I don't think I've taken this off since I've got it. I really love it. It is the Miche necklace in black. They do also do it in green and blue. I also have kind of a matching ring, which is the Amara ring in black, and I'm also wearing these gorgeous bamboo heart earrings, which are the biggest hoops that I own. Also, you have to let me know, am I serving Eddie from Stranger Things with the hair today, or am I serving Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride? Because I just feel like those are 2 looks that I'm very much leaning into accidentally recently. But in terms of their earrings, one of my absolute favorite things about Ana Luisa is that the majority of the posts on their earrings are made out of either titanium or surgical steel, and as somebody with really sensitive ears when it comes to the jewelry that I put in them, the material of the post really does make a difference to me, because it is essentially the difference between me being able to wear earrings all day without any issues or having to take them out after a couple of hours with like red itchy piercings. Even sterling silver posts have irritated the inside of my piercing. Ana Luisa tend to have some really great sales as well, so if you guys want to go ahead and check them out, you can click on the link right at the top of my description box, and I do also actually have a 10% discount code for you guys today as well. So if you enter the code BeccaBooks10 at checkout, you will get an extra 10% off your purchase. Once again, a huge thank you to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this video, and let's start talking about some series. These actually, they're not going to be in any particular order necessarily, but I am going to start by, I guess, talking about the ones that aren't fantasy romance, and then we'll just do all the fantasy romance at the end. But obviously one of the series that I'm currently in the middle of, I'm actually right at this second about halfway through the second book, but that is the Fits in the Fall series by Robin Hobb. This is the final series in the Realm of the Eldlings, which is of course a massive 16 book extended universe. This is the final Fits trilogy. I am so scared because throughout the first 6 books and this book in the series, you know that there's certain characters that have to stay alive because you know that there's further books coming. That doesn't exist anymore. That's not a thing anymore. Everyone could die in these books, and I'm terrified because these books are just generally like sad to begin with. But if you don't know, my pal Fitz Chivalry Farseer, who would be the winner of the award for dumb bitchery every single year if that was an award that existed, but we start following him when he's very young. He's like 6 or 8 and he does age quite quickly throughout the first couple of books, but he is the bastard son of the prince in waiting, Prince Chivalry. He's initially raised by his mother and his maternal grandfather. However, his maternal grandfather quickly tires of him, drops him on the steps of the keep and says that he wants him to go back to his father. So the people of the keep start transporting him to the seat of the crown, which is Bookkeep, and as Chivalry realizes that Fitz is approaching, he very quickly abdicates and moves to the countryside. After that, nobody really knows what to do with Fitz, so he's actually raised by the stable master Burrich up until he comes of an age where the king starts to to take an interest in him and actually starts to train him as the royal assassin. Fitz's tale is actually devastating, to be fair. The whole like overarching plot of the Realm of the Eldlings is about like cycles, kind of like, you know, the synopsis of Wheel of Time is like the wheel keeps turning and like everything kind of repeats itself in a cycle. This series is about pretty much breaking the cycle to stop bad things from happening and gain like more favorable outcomes. And that's kind of there's a lot going on in here. We have dragons, different types of magic, a lot of politics to do with the royal family. We have an assassin story, but the main like big overarching theme is time and the cycles of time, I guess. So this one, I have 1.5 books left. The half book will be done by the end of the week. Actually, the day that you're seeing this, I will have finished that book, and then I will have also finished this series by September, and I'm terrified. The other adult epic high fantasy series we have is Corrosive Dragons by Jen Lyons. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't remember how many. This is done now, right? The 5th book was the last book to be published, Discord of the Gods, I think. But this one is an adult fantasy series that caught my eye a while ago, but I think Jade from Jade Reeves was reading it and loving it, and so a whole ton of other people picked it up and started really loving this series, which is why it caught my attention. And I read the first book and really enjoyed it, so I very quickly went on to the second and just really did not like that one. That's probably one of my worst books of the year so far, so I have yet to continue. But people have told me that books 1 and 2 are like a prequel for book 3, and if I like book 1, then book 3 should get the series kind of like back on track to where I want it to be. But this is a very differently told story. It is a story of a young boy called Kieran who right at the beginning of this book is in prison, and he has been imprisoned with this monster called Talon. Talon asks Kieran to tell her a story. He then begins to tell his life story in first person, but after the first chapter she interrupts him and says that that isn't the start of the story, and she starts the story from an earlier point in time in third person up until the stories eventually, they don't meet but they kind of catch up with each other, then continue in present day. So what I wanted from the second book is for it to continue from that point in present day, but what it actually did was exactly the same thing as book 1 but with a different character in the lead, which I wasn't a fan of. I didn't like the setting of the second book as much, but mainly I was just frustrated that, because this is a confusing series as well. We have gods, dragons, god kings, legendary heroes, legendary villains, reincarnation, and it's just a lot, but in a way that like you know that Jen Lyons knows what's going on. But what I wanted from the second book was for it to continue on and iron out some of those things, make things a little bit more clearer, and I don't know, just like continue the story in that manner, building upon what we'd already learned. But it just started the story again in a different part of the world where you had to learn a whole ton more stuff before you've even really ironed out all of the details about this. So now when I go back to the third book, it's not going to be as seamless to me, and I'm not going to know as much as I would have if the story had continued from the point of this, if that makes sense. So yeah, very promising series from the start. Really didn't like the second book, but I am hoping to continue sometime soon. When that's actually going to be, I'm not too sure, because not liking the second book has like really put the brakes on this series for me. But as I said, a lot of people have told me that books 1 and 2 are like a prequel, and book 3 is going to be pretty much what I wanted from book 2. But I was also told if I don't like book 3 either, then there's no point me continuing. So I guess we'll see what happens. So now that we've done the 2 adult fantasy series, I'm going to run through all of the ebook series that I'm in the middle of, which I think is 3 in total, one of which is not fantasy romance and also kind of isn't a series, but the way that I'm reading it is like a series. But that is Never Never by Colleen Hoover and Taryn Fisher. I'm trying to catch up on Colleen Hoover's backlist, and this is one of the things that I do have to read. I don't like her older work as much as I like her, I want to say newer stuff, but like her post 2015, I want to say, work. So like Slammed, Maybe Someday, don't love. November 9, It Ends With Us, I do love. Confess and Ugly Love are like kind of in the in-between for me. But this is one that I just kind of wanted to read because Colleen Hoover, but it's actually a serial. So it was published in like 150 page installments, and if you mash all of those together, they're the length of like one book pretty much. But I think it was for was it just before the 48-hour bookoplathon, I read part 1 of this, and I've yet to continue. So this is about 2 teenagers who have amnesia, and they both kind of just realize that they have amnesia when they're in the middle of a classroom. They don't know who they are, they don't know where they are. They know contextual things, like they know what school is and they know how to drive, but they have no idea about who they are. So the majority of the first installment is pretty much just them establishing they have lost their memories. They realize that both of them have lost their memories and that it probably has something to do with each other. They also have a past together where they were best friends for most of their childhood, then they started dating, and now it seems like maybe recently something has gone wrong for some reason, and that could be linked to their memory loss. So I would say that it was intriguing enough for me to continue, but it wasn't like the best thing I ever read. But I think that the second 2 installments would be really great for readathon picks, and I do want to continue, so I'm probably going to save it for that. Next up we have the Underworld Gods series, or duology with a novella, I think, by Karina Halley. I actually picked up the first book for, I'm pretty sure it was Magical Readathon. One of the prompts was to read a book with shadow in the title, and I found this on Kindle Unlimited. I've read 2 books from Karina Halley in 2 different series, and I don't think I'm going to be reading anything else, although I do want to finish this one. This one was, I don't even remember at this point, because it was interesting but like mediocre, and it follows this girl whose father is from Norway and he dies, so she flies over from the US to go to his funeral, and she wants to view his body. There's these 2 creepy people who work at this resort that her father owned, and she wants to view his body, but as she approaches the casket, I'm pretty sure she finds out that it's empty, and this guy approaches her and is like, "Hi, I know where your father is, he's not actually dead," and then they head down into the underworld to rescue her father from the death god. I did enjoy elements about it. I preferred the setting and stuff to the other series I've read by Karina Halley, which is the vampire one, Black Sunshine, I think. I still haven't read the sequel to that, although I do have it. And I thought that the romance was interesting. A little bit of a plot twist as well. It went in a way that I didn't expect romantically, which, thinking about it, I should have expected it. But based on how the story started and how it was set up, there was an element that I didn't see coming. And yeah, it was just okay. But the thing I find with Karina Halley is that like her books just aren't compelling to me. Like I could easily put them down and walk away from them, and I can easily forget about them after I've read them. The sequel to this is out. I can't remember what it's called, but I think if it's not out now, then it's definitely out in August, so I do want to finish that up. And there is a very short novella that goes with it as well. So yeah, like it was fine, but I didn't love it. And then the final one of the ebooks is, of course, the equally beloved and dreaded Zodiac Academy by Susan Valenti and Caroline Peckham. I've read the first 2 books in this series. I'm going to read 1 more, and if I still hate it, I will not be continuing. But Zodiac Academy is about twin girls who realize that they are half fae, and they are sent to the Zodiac Academy to hone their powers. They're also like the lost princesses, but since their parents died and they were missing or thought dead, the government of the Fae world, which is like the Celestial Board, I think they're called, their heirs are in place to take over in place of royalty, but that kind of changes everything now that these girls have resurfaced. So it's like a bully romance between some members of these 4 celestial heirs and these 2 girls. I think that the series is very poorly written. I know a lot of people find it really compelling, but I actually just really don't. Like, I could put this series down at any point and I would be absolutely fine with that. I don't like the bullying, because for bully romances, for me, there has to be some sexual tension there. And for me, this is just truly awful people being awful, and there's no sexual tension or chemistry there at all. I do have a vague interest in one of the celestial heirs. One of them I absolutely despise, which is Seth. He really creeps me out. And the only reason why I would continue reading this series, even if I didn't like book 3, is that I'm actually really invested in the romance that's going on with Darcy. I don't know why I can't get into this series, because I definitely understand what people mean when they say like it's not good, but like it's really fun, it's really addictive, and it starts to get really good. I kind of see why some people would feel like that, but I feel like there has to be a little spark of magic there that hooks you in as a person, and it's just completely missing for me right now. But I have heard that it gets good at book 3 or 4, and if I'm not hooked by then, I should give up on it, which is definitely what I intend to do when I read book 3. Who knows, because I don't want to, but we'll see. So a series that I need to catch up on is actually the Pleated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy, the first book being Guild. I haven't ordered book 4 yet, which is Glow. It's just been released, and the reason for that is that I want this cover, which means that I'm going to have to order it off Book Depository, and it's going to be way more expensive than it should be. Essentially, Raven Kennedy has been picked up by Penguin in the UK, so these books have now been traditionally published, and I will say that the covers for the series, like the Penguin covers, are a lot nicer than these, because I like a matte indie cover and this is a shiny one, so I'm not a fan. But some of it is like embossed and picked out in foiling, real nice copies. But I recently went to a romance festival and all of my copies are now signed and personalized, so I don't want to replace them because I don't need 2 sets of this series. Like, I don't need 2 paperback sets. And also I was umming and ahhing about whether to get the Goldsboro limited edition hardbacks, because once again, do I need 2 sets of this series? And I missed out on those. In the UK at the minute, Glow is only available in hardback because it's been traditionally published. So it's a whole thing and I just haven't continued yet, but I think when I get paid, I will order the 4th book, which is the penultimate book. The next one is called Gold and that will be released next year. But this one is a fantasy romance series following a young woman called Auron, who is King Midas's pet. She's been gold touched by him and he keeps her in a cage because she's so valuable, but she actually likes that because she comes from a background of extreme abuse and trauma from a very young age, and Midas kind of took her and protected her and saved her from that. So he wasn't actually a king to start off with, but he married into royalty and he survived on the streets with her, brought her into the fold and has kept her safe since then. So she doesn't have the most freedom, but she actually prefers that safety, even if it is inside a cage, in comparison to being in a place that is potentially dangerous to her and like kind of reminds her of where she's been and all of that like really traumatic stuff. So this series is incredibly dark as well. There are lots of themes of sexual assault through here, as well as I think it was Gleam had something really, really brutal in terms of like a violent like torture kind of aspect that I mean, I have a strong stomach for torture, but just, oh, it was too much, you know? So do be aware of that if you're going into this. But I really, really love it. I love the romance throughout this series. I love how you expect this series to go one way and then very quickly realize it's not going to go the way that you expect it to. I love the plot twists. I love how these books aren't particularly fast paced, because like the 3rd book is 500-600 pages, takes place over a very short space of time, a lot of slow moments, character building, but they're just page turners, you know, for some reason. I feel like this is what people get from Zodiac Academy that I don't, where you can keep turning pages even though like nothing is particularly happening a lot of the time. But yeah, I'm really excited to continue and get Glow. The only reason that I haven't continued is because I need to order that from Book Depository and it's way more expensive than it should be, because I specifically want the US indie paperback. Another series that is really compelling, and I feel like this could be my Zodiac Academy, is the Savage Land series by Stacey Marie Brown. So this one is not their best written. It is written miles better than Zodiac Academy, but truly like that is not difficult. But the plot is a little bit messy. I feel like we're getting more questions than answers, and I've read 2 books in this series so far, so like I should be having things answered by now, and it's just not really coming, you know? Pacing is a little bit all over the place, the main character romantically a little bit all over the place, but I just love it. I just think that it's so addictive, even though critically not amazing. But I love it. So this one is a kind of fae romance series that is in a very dystopian feeling setting. It's set in the city of Budapest, and 20 years ago the barrier between the world of the fae and the humans fell. Since then the world has kind of changed how it's structured, but the city of Budapest in particular is split in 2, with the humans living in one part and the fae living in the other part. Now our main character is a human. She is the daughter of this really like renowned general who sadly died, and so since his death, she has been the ward of the king. She's grown very close to the prince. She's in love with him. They're best friends. It's a whole thing. And from her position of privilege, she likes to give back to the humans who are not as privileged as her by stealing drugs from trains that travel through the city and putting those drugs onto the black market, which takes the money away from the elite and puts it in the hands of the people who need it, which I just don't feel like is very clever, because surely that also facilitates cycles of addiction in like the lower classes where they don't have the resources to get out of those cycles of addiction. I don't know, but she seems to be doing it out of the goodness of her heart. And one day on this train, as it goes through the checkpoint into the fae part of the city, she's captured and thrown into this maximum security prison that nobody ever escapes from, which is where she meets Warwick Farkas, who is very much modeled on Jason Momoa. So if Jason Momoa is an attractive man to you, and I mean how could he not be, then this may be a series for you. Like I said, plot can be a little bit all over the place. Writing is not bad, it's just not amazing, but I really do like the sexual tension between the main characters. And even in terms of the romance, like they keep repeating the same kind of argument of why they can't or don't want to be together over and over and over again without like a whole ton of progression, but it's still like really addictive to me. So yeah, I really love this series. I'm desperate to continue. I actually ordered books 3 to 6, which is the final one, so this is another finished series, but I ordered them from Waterstone, so it takes a little bit longer for them to arrive. But when they come, because I ordered all of them this time instead of just ordering one, when they arrive, I may just have to binge them. We'll see how I feel. And then the final series I have to talk about is Laurel and Puss by Rachel Smith. This one is a fantasy romance webcomic that is being bound into print. The art style is all, well, there are different colors in here, but it is a Hades and Persephone romance. So the main colors are blue and pink because Persephone is pink, Hades is blue. But this contains more than just Hades and Persephone. It has a whole ton of other Greek myth characters: Aphrodite, Eros, Hera, Hecate. They're all here and they're all a bunch of dicks essentially. But this is predominantly a romance between Hades and Persephone, with the other characters kind of fulfilling their role in Greek myth in that they still like retain their personality and stuff, but it is in a modernized setting. So Olympus is a city and Zeus rules there. Hades is in the underworld. Poseidon rules over the sea, but they have like technology, social media, and it makes them kind of really relatable. And this is also a really funny comic series while still retaining their personality. So it does also still keep some of the problematic natures and the more unsavory natures of Greek myth. So we have a lot of content warnings in here for sexual assault and abuse, domestic abuse, toxic relationships, and all of that kind of stuff. But just the way that this romance, this relationship is portrayed, I love it so much. Volume 1, 400 pages of mutual pining. I very recently read volume 2, loved it. Didn't love it quite as much as this one, just because I didn't feel like we got as much Hades and Persephone as we get in this, which is obviously the main thing I'm reading it for, but still obsessed with it. And volume 3 is actually due to be released in October, which is why I'm not up to date with this yet. But like with volume 2, as soon as it's released and I have it, I'm just going to be reading it straight away because I cannot get enough. One of my favorite things that I read last year, one of my best books of the year, and also volume 3 is one of my most, I think it's at the minute, it is my most anticipated release for the rest of 2022. So there you have it. Those are 8 series that I need to either finish or catch up with before the end of 2022. I feel like I do stand a good chance, especially with like these ones. I feel like these 3 are definitely going to be done by the end of the year. And then of course we know that this one is going to be done by the end of the year. So I think I have a pretty good chance of getting through some stuff. But down in the comments, please let me know, what series have you started or continued on with in 2022 that you would most like to finish before the end of the year rolls around. Once again, a huge thank you to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this video and continuing to support my channel. And if you would like to get your hands on some beautiful, elegant, timeless pieces of jewelry, go ahead, click on that link at the top of my description box, and also don't forget to enter the code BECCABUMXX10 at checkout to get yourself an additional 10% off your purchase. But aside from that, guys, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you wanna. If you head to my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as link to my Bookish candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.